Good evening. The April 12th, 2021 meeting of the Rockingham County Planning Board is now in session. The chair calls upon Mr. James Harris for our invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity that we can meet for our April 12th Rockingham County Planning Board meeting. As we review the numerous cases being presented to us tonight, just give us the knowledge and skills to make decisions that will be beneficial to everyone. We ask these things in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any corrections to the agenda or changes?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as written.
Second.
Been made and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Seeing no opposition, the adoption of the agenda is unanimous. Next item on the agenda is approval of the February 8th minutes. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
Approve.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the February 8th meeting minutes. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Seeing no opposition, the minutes are approved. The following are the procedures under which the cases will be heard. Each case will be presented to the board by a member of the planning staff. Following the staff presentation, the case applicant will be given the opportunity to brief the board regarding the case. Following the applicant's presentation, those who have signed up to do so will be granted the opportunity to speak against or in support of the proposal. If needed, the board chairperson reserves the right to set time limits for each speaker. After the public comment period is completed, the applicant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal. This will be followed by board discussion, motions, and voting procedures. Any and all persons who would like to speak regarding any case being heard by the planning board must first sign the case file roster prior to the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker must be sworn in by the presiding board member to the case hearings. Additionally, each speaker must be recognized by the presiding board member prior to speaking. Unless otherwise specified, all testimony, evidence, and comments should be directed to the board chairperson or presiding board member. Now, I noticed that there were a few late arrivals. Those of you who arrive late, if you intend to speak, you have to let me know now so we can add your name to the roster. If you're planning to speak and you missed the roster sign up, please. There you go. Thank you. Our Community Development Director, Carrie Spencer, will now present our first case. Case number 2021-09.
New technology. So we've removed the side televisions and replaced them with a screen here in the middle, and there's another, actually, television screen in the back for visitors in the back to see, just so you know what changes we've made. So this case before you is a zoning request for a residential agricultural to residential protected conditional district. There is a small piece of property that's on the zoning map zoned heavy industrial as well. Both are to be converted to residential protected. The parcel is just over 100 acres located on Carlton Road. It's within the target growth area that we've identified as economic development land class. The requested parcels will have access to county water and sewer, therefore the number of lots that they're asking for would be allowed with water and sewer provided. Staff believes that sufficient information has been provided, and we do recommend approval. Sorry, I'm not behind myself a little bit. Just so that you understand, we're revising the UDO. A case like this would come to you for a zoning request because of the lot size and water and sewer provision. So I know we talked about that before, but this is a case that you would hear for a rezoning request under the new ordinance. Are there questions for me? The proposed conditions are the assumption that lots will be served with water and sewer. The maximum number of lots will be 162, and the subdivision will include roads stubbed to the north and east for future potential connectivity.
And Carrie, this location appears to fall within one of the growth areas under the soon-to-be adopted land use plan.
And current. So we haven't adopted the new, so we actually do need to go by the currently adopted land use plan, which does identify this as an economic development area, which means denser, potentially denser development.
Any other questions for staff?
So, Carrie, when we're considering this, we shouldn't consider any of the new plans that we've been looking at, or just what's status quo?
Just, what we have currently adopted. And I'll be sure to let you know when the revisions are adopted. But right now, we're working with the same ordinance that you've been with.
So this one could potentially just be an old-style subdivision with certain lot sizes, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The difference would be it would still be a subdivision. There would be a greater variety of lot sizes available, but the number of lots would be very likely be the same.
Okay.
Gary, when we're considering this, are we considering any of the traffic patterns or anything? Are we taking that in consideration with this vote?
Yeah, the NCDOT will have to approve a driveway permit to Carlton Road with the approval of this subdivision, and they'll be reviewing it at the subdivision phase to determine whether or not any traffic impacts need to be mitigated
Will anything be looked at 220?
from this particular development. Just the widening of 220 may accommodate a different, a ramp here or an access, but because this is coming in before the project, it's got that access directly onto 220. We don't have a traffic impact analysis requirement in our UDO.
Questions for staff? Thank you, Carrie. At this time, we'll hear from the applicant. Is Mr. Leonard here?
Good evening. I've got a few.
Use the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Al Leonard, work with the Carroll Companies. Okay to take the mask off?
Yes, you can.
Our address is 201 North Elm Street, Suite 201, Greensboro.
What is it you'd like the planning board to know?
Well, I've been working with the Carroll Companies. I've been before this board several times. We're working on the Ontex project just down the street, which is about a $30 to $40 million project. We're getting ready to start a project right across the street from that, another 176,000 square foot spec building that'll be about a $15 to $20 million building. So we're invested in Rockingham County. We like the area. We've got other assets in that area that we're working on as well. I do have some handouts. Do I pass them this way? Or give it to Carrie? I have had both shots, so proud to say that. So. So what I've handed out is just a brief summary of what we're doing. Tab 1 is just an illustrative map that kind of shows the phases that we'll be developing, the access out on Carlton Road. This map shows out of 102 acres, 21 acres being set aside that are outside of the right-of-way and outside of the lots that would be in streams or buffers or common area, common elements of that sort. The second tab is where we went through the TRC meeting here at Rockingham County. I believe DOT was at that meeting. So they've reviewed our plan. We've also sent the plan to the Huntsville Fire Department regarding the access onto Carlton, and they were okay with it, provided we had fire hydrants, was my understanding. The third tab is just a letter that we sent to the same folks that should have received a notice. We got the mailing list from staff, and we sent those letters out back on March 22nd. We spoke to the owner of Kalo Foods, who owns the property kind of directly behind us where our Carlton Road entrance is going to be. He seemed to be okay with what we were doing. More questions regarding the water and the sewer. We are running water and sewer within the development. Prices of the homes, we're expecting somewhere in the $200,000 and up range. So if you do the math, by the time we get to the end of this project, it should be about a $30 to $40 million asset in that area to the county from a tax base. That's my opinion. All the homes will be built on cross spaces. So I've got Sarah Clark here with Lewis and Clark. She's our land acquisitions person. We've got Rick Ringler here with Timmons Group. He's our engineer. So if you have any questions on any of those fronts, we'll be glad to answer them.
Question. I do know that there's a real housing shortage in our area, and so I know there's a need for it. I'm very familiar with this location and site. Have y'all looked at anything with 220? As you know, that's a very difficult turnout going southbound from this site. That's probably my real concern with, just all that traffic now pouring onto 220 right there from Carlton, because it's not a really great turn there. It's pretty dangerous there, and Gold Hill crossing going southbound.
Well, we've sent the plans to DOT. We've been involved with those folks, and whatever mitigation things they come up with, we'll certainly entertain, take a look at. Again, our engineers here can maybe answer that question more than me, but I leave the site all the time when I'm up there with bids and non-techs and so forth, and it's part of growth. This area is deemed for growth, and what mitigation efforts need to be done by all in that area to absorb that growth.
I noticed that the TRC had a concern with extending wastewater capacity. Is that something we should be asking your engineer?
No, that wouldn't even come into play until the subdivision phase where it's actually doing the subdivision.
Remind me, how many home sites will be in the subdivision?
The map that we've given you here shows 162, but that's a maximum. We know with the topo and so forth, as we start working on grading plans, and that number may drop. We're expecting it to drop a few lots and so forth. Our goal is to save as many trees as possible. If you look at this map, in tab 1, it not only shows the tree areas outside of the lots, it shows the trees on the back of the lots, and that's our goal, is to try to minimize any impacts at all other than getting the homes in there.
So you think there'll be at least 150 homes?
I would hope, yeah. And for comparison, Collybrook around the corner, I think D.R. Horton's doing that one. Looks like a great community, but their density on their new section, if I read it right, is just over a half acre. They've got 179 lots on 103 acres. We've got 162 max here at 102 acres. So we're a little over 0.6 as far as an average goes. So I say that just to show you we're more or less consistent for that area.
Any other questions for Mr. Leonard? Well, Mr. Leonard, no one has signed up rather to speak against this proposal, and your colleagues who are with you tonight didn't sign up to speak either. So unless you think it's necessary for us to hear them,
No, so they're just here
I
in
think we
case,
can move on.
in case you had questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Discussion, members? entertain a motion.
I got a question. I didn't realize this is going to be brought up today. Is it okay? I didn't get any notice of this, but I do have a question about this.
Are you a party
I'm a
of,
resident of this area that would be affected by this.
well, can you come forward then? For the record, state your name.
My name is Kerry Swinney.
Wait a minute.
It's
I'm gonna have to sign you into the roster
Yes, sir.
because you didn't sign up to
Sorry
speak.
about that.
Go ahead again, please.
Kerry Swinney, Kerry. Swinney, Swinney.
And what's your address?
641 Low Road, LOWE, Madison, North Carolina.
And are you for or against this?
I'm for it, for the whole premise of but like he said, boosting residential economy of Rockingham County. I mean, it's a great idea, a great concept. The question what I had was, is there only one entrance coming into, or is there going to be another entrance off of Gold Hill? Because the gentleman, Philip Stone, made a valid point. You got 150 homes, most homes have 2 cars, so let's say 2 cars. And then let's just say half of those cars are coming out at 8 o'clock in the morning on 220, which is already busy enough. And when they come out on 220, where he's got it designated in red right here, they have to come out on 220 and then make a U-turn to come back. So that's 150 cars, well, we'll say 80 cars respectively, trying to make U-turns at 8:30 in the morning, when it's already really busy coming southbound on 220 into Greensboro.
Well, currently, I think you heard Kerry Spencer say that we don't require traffic studies. And even if one was to be submitted, it would have to come from an NCDOT or an expert in the field in order to be accepted as evidence. It can't be opinion. We can't accept opinions.
I'm just, the reason why I came up was, is there going to be 2 entrances or exits out of the residential neighborhoods?
Right now, they're showing one, but it's
Just one.
on Carlton Road.
Okay. I didn't know if
What
they,
happens once they get on Carlton Road is
right,
they could go either way.
okay. I thought I heard the gentleman say Gold Hill too.
It'd be up to the DOT to make that determination.
I think Kerry had mentioned there was, I guess they're going to have it stubbed in where the potential in the future, if they, I guess, acquired the track that adjoins that on Gold Hill, that it could be potentially stubbed into that.
That was a requirement to alleviate that pressure.
On
We
Clayton.
often do to create stub roads so that there's connectivity in different directions.
Okay,
So what'll happen next is the DOT will review the plans. If they feel like a traffic study is necessary, they will ask for it. But we leave it to their hands from this point to ensure that the roads are safe.
okay. I mean, that was it. I mean, safety is our key thing.
But Kerry, at this point there, right now, there's one way in, one way out. That's not, yeah.
Track doesn't extend over to Gold Hill Road, yeah.
My concern is more about emergency response in and out of one entrance. But as Al said, the Huntsville Fire Department looked at it, and because there will be hydrants in the neighborhood, they'll be able to get to the home.
Well, we'd have to defer to their opinion.
Correct. It's one of those things that they, that letting you know that I'm thorough in distributing, this, and then Mr. Leonard is thorough in distributing and speaking to anyone who might be affected. And he'll be speaking to DOT as well. We're not even really at that point. We're just rezoning at this point.
Speaking from a fire background, what the most problematic thing is cul-de-sacs and getting If you could minimize those, that would be great, but that's the most problematic thing.
Thank you, Mr. Swinning.
DOT will.
This one is a little different, that they've already presented to Technical Review Committee,
Right.
where usually it's us and then it's Technical Review. So this already has been reviewed by,
The preliminary plan has, yes.
Yes, it's been preliminary review, and it's because it was a larger subdivision, and I really wanted to have that kind of triage before it.
Motion, please.
Mr. Chair. The Planning Board has reviewed the Residential Protected Conditional District zoning amendment and adopts the following statements required by NCGS 153A-341 and 153A-342. After considering Rockingham County adopted comprehensive plans, the Planning Board recommends approval of case number 2021-09. This action is consistent with the adopted Rockingham County Land Use Plan. This zoning amendment does support the intent and descriptions of the economic development land class. The board considers this action in adopting the proposed zoning amendment to be reasonable because the proposed use is appropriate for the land, considering its effect on the entire community as a social, economic, and political unit. The size and parcel is appropriate for the district requested. The property for the requested abuts properties that are currently zoned highway, commercial, light industrial, residential, agricultural, and residential protected. The board considers its action in adopting this zoning amendment to be in the public interest because the proposed development has sufficient design features so as to be compatible with or exceed the quality of existing developments in the neighborhood. The land use permitted in the residential protected conditional district would have similar impacts as the surrounding residentially zoned properties. This would not impose significant harm on the neighbors and surrounding community. The proposed rezoning is designed to meet or exceed all requirements and goals of the existing UDO and the comprehensive land use plan, and on balance, the following factors: 1, the size of the tract in question; 2, the compatibility of the zoning action with the comprehensive plan; 3, the benefits and detriments resulting from the zoning action for the owner of the newly permitted property and neighbors and the surrounding community, and the relationship between the envisioned permitted use and the uses currently present in adjacent tracts weigh in favor of approving the proposed zoning amendment. That's it. Do I need to read the rest of that?
I'm sorry?
Do I need to read the rest of that for the record?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the application for case number 2021-09. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those in opposition, like sign. There being no opposition, the application is approved. Carrie, when is the commissioner's next meeting?
The commissioners will hear this on May 17th.
May 17th, okay. By way of information for you people that are attending this meeting, approval of rezonings by this board result in a recommendation to the commissioners that they also approve it, but final approval rests with the commissioners. What happened to my agenda? No, I lost my agenda. The next case is application for a special use permit, case number 2021-08. Thank you. I got to find my...
This is a special use permit to allow a travel trailer park. You saw a special use permit request, you approved a special use permit a couple of months ago for a rural guest facility at this same property. The case was appealed, and the appeal was upheld, and the case dismissed, the decision dismissed on the basis of the fact that what staff and the board was considering to be a guest cabin camper was ruled to be a travel trailer, and the strict interpretation or reading of the development standards prohibit travel trailers. So that was a decision that the judge made. So because of that, the applicant has come back to ask for a special use permit to allow for a travel trailer park, being the closest thing to what they intend to use the property for. So that is why the switch, that the property owner intends to do basically the same operation, but to operate it as we had to rename the use in order to,
All right, this had more to do with the legal definition of
Yes.
dwelling unit, didn't it?
yeah, and what a guest cabin was, but it was ruled. This property is located in the rural transition land class. It's intended to accommodate existing residential neighborhoods and balance the need to retain the area's rural character with strong demand for continued residential development. This is also an economic development initiative in order to provide tourist places to stay when they visit the county. The area is surrounded by mostly agricultural land, residential protected and agricultural. The property is a 27-acre property. I think two acres of which will be requested for this use. Aerial view, of the property shows the location. It's actually two parcels because one parcel is an access entryway. I have said in the staff report that staff concludes sufficient information has been provided for the application to be processed. Looking at the requirements, the development standards for travel trailer park, and the requirements for plan submittal, I invite you to verify whether that indeed is the case based on the site plan that was submitted.
Is that
The site plan is right after the two maps.
I'm sorry, but this is insufficient. The site plan?
It's trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it is difficult without a scale and without, more accurate detail.
Does everyone understand this? This is the drawing I'm referring to. Can you all see this? This one here?
Yeah, when I drove up there and looked all around that area and where this is all going to play, it was pretty obvious. When looking at this and having seen the actual property, this actually makes sense to me.
The question is whether it's adequate information in order to make a decision for a quasi-judicial proceeding.
Is there any way for us to get a better rendering? Because this does not, I mean, we've heard this before. We can sort of visualize the concept, and obviously, we supported that. But yeah, I mean, I understand that we're trying to sort of fit a technicality with this action, but
Well, and
I'm with Paul. I'd like to see something a little bit more cleaned up.
one
if
of
possible.
the issues with it, and this is something that I've given a lot of thought to, is that the site plan does become part of the permit. So the site plan itself is a part of the permit. So if you want more accurate information, a scaled plan, for instance, then, yeah, then you can ask for it.
I'm all for continuing this case until that can be done. We'll give the applicant time to furnish a little better drawing.
At least need a map overlay and a scale and a
Well, and it's, Carrie, if this
directional.
is going to be part of a legal record, I mean, just for the applicant's benefit, I would much rather them have,
She had turned in a big one.
I turned in a big site plan, but they said it was too big to use.
Is it the one with the glued-on?
Yeah,
Pictures?
Yeah, I put pictures on it. It was more, but I'm not an artist. I mean, I've done a big one on the poster board and showed.
We can-
the scale, but like, for me to draw it out like an engineer, I mean, I don't know that I can do that, but I turned in basically the same thing the last one too. And I have some pictures of my property that shows where it's gonna go.
Well, I've seen the pictures, and I remember your pictures from the last time we approved your project,
right?
notwithstanding our error in misclassifying the legal definition of a dwelling unit.
Is there some assistance that you can offer the applicant?
No, I mean, most often, a case like this, a applicant gets a surveyor to lay out a site plan to satisfy those site plan requirements. And I've been trying, to move the case forward with what we have, and we'd given the applicant these development standards that list what needs to be on the plan.
Being
And
that
and
this-
surely she did the best that she could by hand and by sketch, but
Is there any way that you can get a recommendation for her, something that's not a surveyor, because that's probably going to be a financial burden, but is there any way that she can get something a little bit more cleaned up for this packet?
I can give a list of people that are qualified to draw a scale drawing that I'm aware of. But it is, I mean, it's a,
It would be on the applicant's responsibility
Yeah.
to pursue that.
There's a lot of free software out there too, you can mock this up on and
Okay.
print it. I mean, it's,
My defense on that,
Can I just add, I'm sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Good job.
Yeah, I think now, I mean, the decision is before the board to make a decision whether to hear it or to continue it. Just keep in mind, this is a quasi-judicial setting, so any further comments, I would advise the board would need to be under oath and follow the right procedure if there's any more comments from the applicant.
you can hear comments in defense, or you can continue the case. I mean, the ordinance does.
I'm all
the
for
ordinance
continuing it.
is-
I'm all for continuing it to give the applicant time to, since it's got to be part of the permanent record.
I see that we've got the two parcels, but really, it looks like the acreage requested for the special use permit is 1 to 2 acres. Is that correct?
It is, but that also isn't shown on the site plan in relation to the larger acreage. I mean, there isn't,
For
it's not,
example, Philip, when you look at this drawing, there's no
20.
way to tell where the 2 acres is located.
So like even if we were to even have a vote, it would be the whole 27 acres, is that correct?
well, you'd be voting on the site plan, so you'd be voting on a bit of an arbitrary representation of the request.
Unfortunately, we just don't have enough information here.
And I've been, this is one of those things with a growing county like ours. We're getting more and more requests as we grow, and I'm obliged to stand more by the ordinance requirements for more accurate information, even if there's a cost incurred. So the first finding that you have to make is that the user development is located, designed, and proposed to be operated so as to maintain or promote public health, safety, and general welfare. And if it's not possible to discern that with the information that's provided.
I move that we continue this case.
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded to continue this case to allow the applicant sufficient time or at their discretion, to submit a revised site plan.
That
All those in favor? Opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, a motion has been made and seconded to continue this case.
We'll continue it to, well, the case will be continued based on when the application is,
Exactly.
the site plan is received. Do you, after the two cases, do you want to give opportunity for citizens to leave?
I'm sorry.
Do you want to give opportunity for citizens to leave or to stay based on the,
Well, I suggest that if there's going to be any commentary from the public, it should come at the time when the site plan has been received, and we have everybody able to see what we're talking about here.
speak?
So
But
if those of you who are here to speak on this case, if you would like to leave, you're certainly welcome to do so. And a fair notice of the public hearing for the rehearing of this case will be made. God, these packets are driving me nuts. Huh?
How many people signed up for that
A
virtual?
lot. This thing here is all messed up. Here we go. The next item on the agenda is an application for special use permit. It's case number 2021-11.
I want to take this back off again. You have before you a request for a special use permit to allow a double-wide manufactured home in a residential protected district. As you know, this use is allowed within this district with a special use permit. The neighborhood is predominantly characterized by single-family and undeveloped residential lots. This is located in the urban transition land class, which is just as it says, to provide for future, more intensive urban and economic development. Staff concludes and stands by the fact that sufficient information has been provided for this to be processed and does recommend approval. The standards of manufactured housing in RP district are attached. Audience, this property is located just east of Reedsville in a neighborhood zoned residential protected. We are advising any applicants now that if they bring an application like this forward, that they study to ensure there are no covenants that would prohibit it, so that doesn't become an issue.
And is this one past that muster?
It's up to the applicant. They were just given that burden of looking at it one way or the other, because we don't regulate covenants. It was just a word of advice. So this aerial shows the surrounding houses and the other type of housing that is in the area. And I'll leave it there for any questions you might have.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are there other manufactured homes in the area?
Across the street, I believe there is one.
It looks, from the
Yeah.
silhouette, it looks to be one, yes.
There's just a variety of house designs in this area, some smaller, some larger.
Okay.
And I know the applicant submitted several photographs, which you can decide are relevant or not. I mean, I think that some of the interior photographs really aren't relevant to your decision. I believe they're probably to demonstrate the fact that it's a nice home. But that isn't your charge. It's just to decide whether or not that type of house should be allowed in this neighborhood.
Okay. Any questions for Carrie? Thank you, Carrie. Mr. Daniel Leonard. This is a quasi-judicial type hearing, so you will need to be sworn in. There should be a Bible up there somewhere. If you place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence and testimony you shall present to the Rockingham County Planning Board on the matters at hand shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please step in the podium there and give us your name and address for the record.
With Clayton Homes, 1131 Freeway Drive, Reedsville, North Carolina.
Okay, and what is it that you'd like the planning board to know about your application?
Well, to your question about if there were other manufactured homes around this, I think that is one right in front of it, but as you go down Knowles Road, there are 3 manufactured homes within a half a mile distance, so
And are you aware of any restrictive covenants in that area?
there are none. There is on the corner lot, but there are none on this lot.
Any questions for Mr. Leonard? There being no questions, you may sit down,
Thank you, sir.
and the chair will entertain a motion.
For the staff, was there any comments from any neighbors? Questions, concerns?
I believe, I received that they could have, just the way. I will say, I emailed
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion. The planning board has reviewed the special use permit and adopts the following statements as required by the Rockingham County UDO and NCGS 153A-341 and 153A-342. After considering the Rockingham County adopted comprehensive plans and UDO, the planning board approves the case number 2021-11. This action is consistent with the adopted Rockingham County Land Use Plan. After review of competent materials and substantial evidence in the record, the board makes the following findings for 4 conclusions necessary to approve a special use plan. That the use or development is located, designed, and proposed to be operated so as to maintain and promote public health, safety, and general welfare. The use of development complies with all required regulations and standards of this ordinance and with all other applicant regulations. And the board finds that the proposed use is allowed in the residential protected zoning district if a special use permit is approved. That the conditions of the special use permit will ensure development meets or exceeds all requirements and goals of the existing UDO, and that the Rockingham County permitting and inspection departments will ensure the structures and site meet or exceed all state and local standards for construction and design, and that the use or development is located, designed, proposed to be operated so as to maintain or enhance the value of contiguous property, or that the use or development is public necessity, and the board finds that the business will be compatible with or exceed the quality of the existing developments in the neighborhood and will have a similar impact on the other building types. And that the use or development conforms with the general plans for the land use and development of Rockingham County as embodied in this chapter in the Rockingham County UDO.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the application for a special use permit. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the application is approved. Unless there are any objections, we will now adjourn the planning board meeting so that we can commence with the Board of Adjustment.
Do you need a motion?
No, we don't. There's no objections. Seeing no objections, the planning board meeting is temporarily adjourned, and the meeting of the Board of Adjustment is convened. This hearing is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it's like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The board's discretion is limited. The board must base its decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. A quasi-judicial decision is not a popularity contest. It is a decision constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. Participation is limited. This meeting is open to the public. Everyone is welcome to watch. Parties withstanding have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, the local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages. Other individuals may serve as witnesses when called by the board. General witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topic, this board needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impact on property values and projections about impacts of increased traffic. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. Witnesses will be sworn in as they are called. With that being said, we'll have Community Development Director Carrie Spencer present this case requesting a variance from the Unified Development Ordinance.
This case is, as you say, a variance to the setback requirements of the zoning of this property. The required side yard setback is 15 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance of 8 feet from that, so 8 feet closer than the 15 feet that is required. Staff does conclude the applicant has submitted a complete application. Some of the information, again, there's quite a bit of information submitted that you can decide is relevant or not based on the findings that you need to determine. The applicant's application does list their responses to the questions that you'll be asking of your decision. And are there any questions?
Looks like they've already obtained approval from the homeowner association. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, but did the applicant sign up to speak? Paul?
I didn't see any documentation to indicate that. That's prepared by the applicant.
And
I mean, a document from the HOA, yeah.
Again, it wouldn't be our regulation to uphold. It's just, it is good to know.
Yeah, the burden's on the applicant to provide that.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't blame you for having that question. It's just not relevant to our decision.
Has there been anyone call or email in?
I think there were several inquiries. Jim was telling me tonight about people just asking what it was that the postcard was about, but nobody stating an opinion one way or the other.
Okay. All right, thank you, Carrie. It appears the applicant in this case is Daniel Dawson.
Yes, sir.
Would you please step forward and be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence and testimony you shall present to the Rockingham County Planning Board of Adjustment on the matters at hand shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, please step in front of the podium and give us your name and address for the record.
Daniel Dawson, 146 Wingdown Way, Reedsville, North Carolina, 27320.
And what is it that you'd like the planning board to know about this application?
Well, I do have a email approval from the architectural committee from Winston Forest that they have already approved the basically exact same CAD drawing that I did. That's part of what I submitted to you guys as well. Just the way our property is located and the way the septic system is located at the rear of the house, there's just a limited amount of space that at the end of our driveway to be able to do something like this, whether it be a single car garage or a higher end storage building. And so the variance is really my only way to accomplish that. And I think the biggest concern for my wife and I in adding that type of thing would be that we'd like to have it close to our home from a security standpoint, as opposed to having something, deep in our lot or something like that. The 8 foot to the right side of where that building would be is basically an area between that building and the neighboring privacy fence. It's it wouldn't restrict anything as far as, I understand ordinances and that sometimes, obviously, they're in place to make sure that access to maybe fire department or all those different types of things, emergencies and things like that. It's critical to leave those kind of areas to be able to gain access to different property. That 8-foot area truly just goes to our backyard.
In order for us to grant any kind of variance, you have to show some kind of hardship. And they have to be from conditions that are peculiar to the property, and by that, I believe it's meant topographic difficulties where your land might drop off and you can't use that, and it would be almost cost prohibitive to fill in a big ravine or something like that. And the hardship cannot be self-created. It appears from your paperwork that you're looking to put up a building to store, is it your parents' or your wife's parents' belongings?
Well, yeah, for all practical purposes, an extra single-car garage, if you will. I mean, really, that's what it's going to be. But it would be to store their items at this point, too. That's why we'd like to have it closer to the house and not be somewhere where, it's almost an acre lot. So to the back of the lot, we'd have some concern that somebody might be able to break into it or something.
Yeah.
We'd be able to keep a lot closer eye on it. The septic system is what really causes my issue more than anything. It's nothing that I can really, I guess financially you probably could move something like that, but that's the way the house was built in 2005, so it's what I'm kind of living with.
How far back does the septic system go on this acre lot?
I think the leach bed runs from that, and if I can tell by the lines in the yard, I mean, it goes quite a ways back, probably 2/3 of the lot, probably, something
You can
like
see the
that.
lines in the yard.
That's
yeah.
my next question. In the photograph, there are lines that pretty much go all the way to the back of the property. It
Yep.
says this is where the leach field is.
Could you not use your left side?
Well,
It looks like your lines are more to the right.
yeah, well, the left side of the property, there's no access to it. I mean, we have a little bit of a drop-off from the road that goes down to that area, and there's no real access to that part of the property. I don't think would be probably as easy to place a building on that side of our property, but
You can actually lay matting down. You could actually come in on your right side and get it over to your left. They can go right over that with matting,
yeah.
so.
It looks like, based on what you've presented in your application, that this is all being done is to make things more convenient for you, and variances are not granted on the basis of convenience.
Right.
I wish there was another way to do it, and unless all the conditions are met, it can't be just one or two or three. If one of them is not met, then none of them are met.
Right.
That's just the way.
On the security, there's all kinds of security tools and things that are available to.
Or there's other
secure the place.
storage facilities that could be rented, things like that, but to grant the variance asking for over a 50% cut in the setback for the sake of,
less than half.
for the sake of convenience is,
Yeah, it's 15 foot to 8 foot, so it's 7 foot off of it. I will say one thing, and whether it gets granted or not, I looked into what and this is immaterial, I know, for Rockingham County, but I looked into what the ordinances were for Greensboro, and a building of this type could be 3 foot off the property line in Greensboro. So I only offer that to say, not to get approval tonight, but I would say in the future, it almost seems like Rockingham County is probably more of a rural area than even Greensboro, the city of Greensboro, and that their setbacks are 3 foot, and in Rockingham County, ours are 15 foot, just seems very large, and limiting, I think, and that's just something in the future for people that are trying to go through this kind of thing like this. If it was, if it was half that, like what I'm looking for, it still seems like that's even larger than a lot of the areas that surround us, Guilford County included, I think, as well, so, but I understand what you're saying.
We have to go by what's in the ordinance.
No, I know it.
And the ordinance simply doesn't allow for,
Right.
doesn't provide a condition such as what you're asking for.
Okay.
But
This turned out to be
even if
more
it-
than I expected. I really thought that, first of all, I didn't realize the setback was that large when we first looked into building a garage. So when we realized that, we've made that smaller to a building to hopefully get to some point where we could do this, and then I was told that I'd have to seek a variance to be able to get to that point. And I in no way thought I didn't really realize what that entailed, and I in no way thought that I would have a sign in my front yard and neighbors asking me a lot of questions about it and things like that. So this has gotten to be a little bit bigger deal than I expected. I was really hoping it would be more of a simple process, but I understand too that ordinances need to be upheld, and so I understand that part.
And we can only go by what's in the ordinance.
I understand.
We don't have the authority or the power to change the ordinance.
I understand.
Is there any distance or requirement between a septic and a building? I mean, obviously you don't want to put on top of it, but is there any real setback for this?
Yes, but did you speak?
Is that 5 foot? Is that a cast in a county regulation too, or? I was told that, and I don't know if that was,
Did central permitting, did the permitting?
I don't-
department tell you that? Or environmental?
I think when I initially talked to a contractor, he told me we had to be 5 foot off of the septic tank. Now, I don't know if that's like,
And it's an environmental health regulation, so I'm really not sure. He would have to,
check with
to
them.
either contractor or check with them.
That probably, even if I took that whole 5 feet, it wouldn't be enough, I guess, probably, huh, so.
I can say that what you're talking about, Greensboro and Guilford County does have a rule where buildings less than 500 square feet can be located within 5 feet of the property line. That is something that we can consider changing in an ordinance, since we're revising our ordinances now. The Greensboro setback is likely a more urbanized setting that would allow closer,
Yeah.
things to be tighter. But even Thornfield has a 500 square foot building to be closer. So if you'd like me to look into that.
I would, Carrie. It seems like to me that, I understand 15 feet too, but we're talking, from the photographs, seems like to me that, 8 feet or, even 5 feet seems to be a reasonable amount of space to get in between there, in between the neighbor's property line and/or their fence.
And that's why there's a size threshold.
Right.
Unfortunately, we can't go against the
Yeah, but,
UDO.
right.
Consider if you do have to get in there and do septic work again, that you've got to,
I only mention this because we are revising. It is,
I think the one thing to think about in the future,
typically not appropriate to bring that up because it's not relevant to
Yeah,
the case, but
yeah.
it's just letting you know.
yeah,
And I needed to get feedback from the board if they wanted to consider that in the future.
Also,
Not-
in relation to our overall design to have a open, kind of environment in the county, then, 15 feet makes sense because you want to keep things open and, far apart. And I think this neighborhood fits into that rural kind of a feel. And so if you start crowding 5 feet across property lines, then you start to impact that rural feel.
the only thing I think that happens, if I could say one other thing, is that on on most all properties, your driveway's to one extreme side or the other, left or right. If you wanted to have a building or a single-car garage built at the end of your driveway, most of those driveways are probably within 10 feet of the property line where they end, as far as distance, so you're not going to be able to build, garages or storage buildings of any type on a lot of these properties that the driveways are running almost adjacent to the property line. Just something for the future, and I know it's not relevant for tonight. I feel like I'm not going to get approved, so I'll just throw that out there, but.
Okay. I noticed that, thank you, sir, or I guess there shouldn't be any questions, right? Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
I noticed on the sign-up sheet, Brandon and Renee Pate have signed up to speak. Okay. I remind the board members that this case doesn't qualify for the issuing of a variance. That being said, we'll need to vote, so we'll need a motion. I can't even find mine.
Mr. Chair, the Board of Adjustment has reviewed the variance and adopts the following statements required by the Rockingham County UDO. After review of competent material and substantial evidence for the record, the Board of Adjustment disapproves case 2021-10. The board makes the following findings for the 4 conclusions necessary to prove a variance. It does not provide an unnecessary hardship that would result from the strict application of the ordinance. It shall not be necessary to demonstrate that in the absence of the variance, reasonable use can be made of the property. No, the hardship results from the conditions that are particular to the property, such as location, size, or topography, hardships resulting from personal circumstances, as well as hardships resulting from conditions that are common to the neighborhood in general may not be the basis for granting the variance, which is the case here. The hardship, no, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or property owner. The act of purchasing property with the knowledge that circumstance exists that may justify granting a variance shall not be regarded as a self-created hardship. And no, the request variance is not consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved.
Is there a second to the motion? Sure, I'll second. Motion has been made and seconded to deny the request for the variance. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the application is denied. Unless there's any objections, we're now going to adjourn the Board of Adjustment and return to our role as the Planning Board. Planning Board is now in session. Is there any old business we need to discuss? Any new business?
The Board of Commissioners appointed a sort of subcommittee to review the land use plan and UDO. Did I give you that information already? So it was a subcommittee of both the advisory group and of the Board of Commissioners to look at the plans more intimately. And that committee is reviewing the land use plan right now. They've had some comments, some good productive comments to it, and are beginning to review the UDO. So just to let you know that more detailed review is putting the project back a little bit. So we're looking for the summer sometime. I think that the good news is that it's being looked at. I mean, it's being reviewed and carefully reviewed, so that's really important, whatever time that takes.
Is there any further meetings scheduled for the subcommittee that I should know about?
Not at this time.
All right. Any questions for Carrie? Thank you very much. Chair will hear a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. There being no opposition, the meeting is adjourned.